So this morning we're announcing our new fast-track consenting one-stop shop regime. This new consenting regime means we'll be able to get big projects built much faster and much more cost effectively. Our new fast-track regime will lift New Zealand's living standards, it will lift productivity and it will grow our economy, all while still protecting treaty settlements and our environment. This regime is an important part of our coalition agreement with New Zealand First, and this afternoon when the bill is introduced into Parliament, it will be another of our first 100-day commitments achieved.
The fast-track approvals bill we're introducing to Parliament today is based on the existing RMA fast-track regime introduced by the previous government. The difference is that our regime is far more extensive and it will be far more effective. Projects will become eligible for fast-track through one of two ways. Either through a referral by the joint decision of the Ministers of Infrastructure, Regional Development and Transport upon an application, or by being listed as a project in Schedule 2A of the bill, and I'll talk more about the schedule in a moment. Once a project's been referred into the fast-track process, it will go to an expert panel for consideration. The expert panel will look carefully at each project and apply consent and permit conditions that ensure the project does not affect existing treaty settlements and that any environmental considerations are managed appropriately. The panel will have a maximum of 6 months to do this. This is similar to the way the existing fast-track regime developed under COVID and then carried over into the current law applies. The panel will then refer the project back to joint ministers to either approve the project with the conditions or decline the project. The ministers will also have the ability to refer the project back to the panel if they consider and determine that the conditions placed on the project by the panel are too onerous. So that's one way for projects to be fast-tracked. Just want to talk briefly about Schedule 2 of the bill. There's been a bit of discussion around that. Schedule 2A of the bill will contain projects which will be automatically referred into the fast-track process once the bill passes into law. If a project is listed in Schedule 2B of the bill, so that's the second part of the schedule, 2B, they will be required to be taken into account by ministers if and when the project becomes before them for referral. So 2A are projects that are essentially ready to be consented, ready to go. They will be listed in the bill. Projects in 2B are projects that have significance, that the government will be interested in progressing, but are not quite yet ready at the consent stage.
I want everyone to bear in mind that the underlying philosophy beneath the armature of this legislation is to move from cancel economics to can-do economics. Every region in New Zealand has been blighted by the costs of acquiring consents, the length of time taken to acquire consents. This piece of legislation flows from the commitments that were entered into in our coalition agreement. I think it's an overdue fillip, and it will transform sectors including the extractive sector and also the aquaculture sector. As the Regional Development Minister, I want to see the market generating more dividends, more jobs, and hoping to create more international revenue. There will inevitably be lots of interest pertaining to the extractive sector. As the Minister, I've been mandated to work with that sector and try and generate more export-led growth outcomes. Inevitably, people will challenge whether or not certain industries should continue to exist in New Zealand or indeed be entitled to come through this process. But the extractive sector is a legitimate, genuine part of a diverse economy. On the question of aquaculture, another piece of work will be addressed dealing with extending all aquaculture permits in New Zealand to give the certainty and the investment and the jobs in regional New Zealand. On the question of treaty matters, I'll share this responsibility with Mr Bishop, but we have upheld the commitments that were entered into in relation to our coalition agreement. The existing settlements and the property rights contained in those settlements will be upheld. There will be ample opportunity for those settlement entities and other groups of Māori who may not have entered into settlements to date to participate in the processes. Their views, their perspectives will be actively sought out by the statutory decision makers. So no one should leave this meeting believing that we have either derogated or marginalised the importance or the standing that post-settlement Māori entities who expect the Crown to honour and uphold the settlements that were entered into in a full and final manner will not be addressed. They are addressed in this bill. Thank you very much.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. To stay up to date with all the latest news from the New Zealand Herald, click the subscribe button below or check out one of the videos here, and head over to nzherald.co.nz for more details on these stories and more.